السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. بارك الله فيكم. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our sins and أن يرزقنا العلم النافع والعمل الصالح. That He provide for us subhanahu wa ta'ala the benefiting knowledge and the righteous good deeds. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the book of al-Rawd al-Murbi', and we are still in the chapter of Sujood al-Sahw. And continuing where we stopped, assuming inshallah ta'ala that everybody follows, that means we're coming to the dars inshallah hopefully prepared. That means the previous sessions, or at least from the beginning of the chapter, has been reviewed, made sure that everything is understood. And it's even better if a person would try to go ahead and try to read the book. It helps, it makes matters very easy to understand. And it's part of the fiqh is that the person doesn't get the understanding from the first instant. To put the effort to try to understand every word and the mutun and the shuruh. This is by itself is one of the means of seeking knowledge, one of the ways to attain the knowledge, as the ulama they mentioned. Otherwise, the ulama could have made it as far as the mutun so easy for everybody to understand. But it's in such a way for us to understand the lugha, the language of the ilm, the language of the fiqh, the language of the fuqaha, because it's ilm that needs to be very precise and to the point. It's the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from any misunderstanding. And that's why for a person to be from the people of knowledge, like any other occupation or matter of knowledge. So continuing inshallah ta'ala from what he says here, he says وَإِن سَبَّحَ بِهِ ثِقَتَانِ. So after what's mentioned before about the sahw or the forgetfulness, now if a person is whether imam or munfarid, whether a person praying alone or praying as an imam, if he made something sahw in the salah, وسبح به ثقتان, as we know that التسبيح للرجال والتصفيق للنساء. الرجال إذا سهى الإمام فإنهم يسبحون. الإمام, if he forgot something, and the ma'mum, to remind the imam of the mistake, he would say subhanallah. For the women, they hit their hands on the right palm on the back of their hands, so to get his attention. So this is what in sabbaha. So the ma'mum made tasbih, or a person praying alone, someone made tasbih to him. So the point here, وَإِن سَبَّحَ بِهِ ثِقَتَانِ, because the ma'mum can, or a person even in the salah, after he finishes the salah, then two people reminding him. But here specifically, if the tasbih is in the salah, that means they're praying jama'ah. وَإِن سَبَّحَ بِهِ ثِقَتَانِ. ثِقَتان is مثنى ثقة, and a ثقة is the trustworthy. Not a child, for example, saying subhanallah in the salah, or someone that from his voice is very obvious that he is not someone responsible for his actions. So it has to be two trustworthy praying behind him. أي نبهاه بتسبيح أو غيره. نبهاه, again مثنى from التنبيه, to bring the attention of someone, the alert. So نبهاه بتسبيح, by saying subhanallah, أو غيره, أو غيره أي غير التسبيح. وكان التسبيح هو المشروع. The tasbih is what's supposed to be done. But what if someone brought the attention of the person in the salah by something else? And it's again ثقتان, two of them. Or غيره here, for example, تصفيق النساء. He says ويلزمهم تنبيهه. ويلزمهم تنبيهه. Another condition for the tasbih here, because the ruling, as we would see, that becomes obligatory upon the one that had sahwi here, is to listen or to follow the tanbih, or to follow the what they're trying to do to him. So ويلزمهم تنبيهه. That means they are also those who made tasbih to him. It's upon them. It's mandatory upon them to get his attention because they're praying together in the salah. So his salah is their salah. So ويلزمهم تنبيهه. So if that's the case, so they are ثقتان and they made the تنبيه. نبه الإمام وكان يلزمهم تنبيهه. يعني they are part of the salah, for example. لزمه الرجوع إليهما. لزمه. لازم. That means it's upon him, it's binding on him. الرجوع إليهما. To return back to them. That means to go by their tasbih. To follow what they are alerting him to. So before we continue, that means this is now the hukm here is wajib upon the imam, for example, is to listen to the tasbih of those who made the tasbih in the salah for the sahw, because he might not be aware of the mistake that he made. So if it's two, that means if it's only one, he doesn't have to. Of course, if it's only one and he realized that he made a mistake, of course he has to follow that. But this is in the case where he's not able to recognize he forgot something or he made a mistake. Right? And as we'll continue inshallah ta'ala to make it clear. So here لازمه الرجوع إليهما. If it's two, that means if it's one لا يلزمه. If it's one, it's not mandatory upon him. سواء سواء سبح به إلى زيادة أو نقصان. سواء, that means whether they made the tasbih, and again all in the muthanna, in the dual tense, whether they both, of course two or more, whether they both made the tasbih for the ziyada, because he made a ziyada in the salah, he added a rak'ah, for example, أو نقصان, or he missed something in the salah. So and سواء, that means either way, both are the same ruling. سواء سبح به. سبح به, they made the tasbih for him. They're not making tasbih like the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for themselves. They made the tasbih for him. إلى زيادة أو نقصان. وسواء غلب على ظنه صوابهما أو خطأهما. وسواء غلب. That means whether the same thing, now he's going to mention after the word sawa, you'll have two options here, and they both does not change the ruling here. So وسواء غلب على ظنه. غلبة الظن is something that we need to really understand, because this is something that is repeated in the books of fiqh a lot. العمل على غلبة الظن في كثير من الأحكام الشرعية. So غلبة الظن. غلبة الظن, that means it's most likely. الظن is when someone can come in the different levels of knowledge, whether it's certainty or less. So غلبة الظن, that means it's most likely to be like this. Not yaqeen, not certainty, where a person would say, Wallahi, this is what happened. So غلبة الظن, there's many rulings that applies not based on certainty, but based on غلبة الظن. One we took before in the tahara. When someone, for example, after defecating, for example, right, cleaning himself, it's by غلبة الظن. It's not under microscopic level, but rather غلبة الظن. If the stone or the tissue or the comes out clean, that means this is by غلبة الظن. So here وسواء غلب على ظنه صوابهما, whether he is to him most likely that they are correct, صوابهما أو خطأهما, or to him, to the imam in this case, is according to him most likely that they are mistaken by making the tanbih or the tasbih. So that means what? That means he still has to go after what they said. لزمه الرجوع. So the hukm still exists, still in place, which is لزمه الرجوع إليهما. He has to return to the ruling, to their tanbih, to their tasbih. That means he has to follow what they're saying to him. So if when he stood up for a rak'ah, for example, he's thinking that this is the fourth rak'ah. Right? But to them, two thiqah, two trustworthy people, they said subhanallah. That means as what's applied here, whether he thinks that they're most likely to be right or most likely to be wrong, it doesn't matter. He has to sit down. He has to sit down. When does he does he or he should not sit down as it's going to come. إن جزم but going ahead here but it's going to come إن شاء الله. إن جزم بصواب نفسه. If he is certain that he's correct, then he doesn't have to listen to them. Okay, so this is when the Imam now is in غلبة الظن. Of course, if he's in doubt, this is obvious. If he doesn't know, this is obvious. But غلبة الظن, he's most likely thinking that they're correct or most likely thinking that they are wrong. It doesn't matter. He has to then follow what they said. والمرأة كالرجل. المرأة كالرجل, the woman has the same ruling as the man. So whether it's women making the tanbih or men, it doesn't matter. It's not like only men or only women. So this is وإن سبح به ثقتان. So according to this, if it's only one person made the tasbih, and that person, the imam in this case, he has no jazm, he's not certain in any matter, is it mandatory upon him to follow that? Not mandatory at that instant. So if it's two, then it's mandatory upon him, or of course more. But still it continues. فإن أصر على عدم الرجوع. Now he refused. أصر, الإصرار is to be persistent. Like الإصرار على المعصية, to be persistently committing sins. فإن أصر أي أصر مثلا الإمام على عدم الرجوع, that he would not return, على عدم الرجوع إلى تسبيح من سبح, أي تسبيح الثقتين. تسبيح الثقتين, the تسبيح of the two ثقة here that is mentioned before. ولم يجزم بصواب نفسه. This is one point here, because the ruling, as you see many times, you have to count more than one thing for the ruling to be applied. So the ruling is بطلت صلاته, but when does his salah becomes batil or not valid? First, that he is أصر على عدم الرجوع. He's refusing to listen to the تسبيح. ولم يجزم بصواب نفسه. لم يجزم, الجزم القطع. القطع يعني he does not have any certainty that he's correct. If these two conditions are there, بطلت صلاته. His salah is invalid. Breaks his salah. Why? لأنه ترك الواجب عمدا. Because he left a wajib intentionally. And what's the wajib here? Which is a sahwa that he's supposed to pay attention to, because for example, sujood sahwa is wajib and he made a mistake. So all of this is in the case of he is not certain. He is whether he is in doubt, shak, or ghalabatu dhan, or in the state of it's most likely to be this or that. And you have two thiqa, whether men or women, they made the tanbih for him. They give him the alert that he made a mistake, and he has to listen to them. He has to listen to them, whether it's for an increase in the salah or decrease in the salah, whether it's, again, he's more certain that they're correct or wrong. And if he refuses in this situation, this case, in this mas'ala, and he's not certain about that he's correct, then بطلت صلاته. العلة هي لأنه ترك الواجب عمدا. أن ترك الواجب عمد يبطل الصلاة. If a person leaves something wajib intentionally, it breaks the salah. If it's forgetfully, then the salah is not is valid. تجزئه صلاته. And therefore then he says وإن جزم بصواب نفسه لم يلزمه الرجوع إليهما. وإن جزم. Now if he has الجزم بمعنى القطع, هو يقطع بصواب نفسه. He has no doubt whatsoever. He is clearly certain that he's correct. لم يلزمه الرجوع إليهما. Then it's not upon him, it's not mandatory upon him to act upon the tasbih, to return to their tasbih, meaning to act accordingly. لأن قولهما إنما يفيد الظن واليقين مقدم عليه. What's the علة here? What's the wisdom behind it? Because to him in that state, he has yaqeen, and for them, to him is dhann. The قولهما, the qawl of the two ثقة, for him is يفيد الظن, is in the state of a dhann, which is less than the state of al-yaqeen. الظن, guessing, thinking. واليقين مقدم عليه. Certainty, of course, take precedence over الظن. واليقين مقدم على الظن. هذه قاعدة. فهو ذكر هنا قاعدة يعني تسري في كثير من الأحكام الشرعية. So this is a principle here. When you have يقين and you have ظن, اليقين مقدم على الظن. هذا إذا جزم بصواب نفسه. وإن اختلف عليه من ينبهه سقط قولهم. وإن اختلف عليه. الاختلاف is يعني اختلف من يسبح به أو من ينبهه. كيف يكون هذا الاختلاف؟ What is the surah? What is the way that الاختلاف here they differed among themselves when they are trying to correct the imam? How is that? For example, he stood up for the fifth rak'ah or for rak'ah. So someone said Subhanallah. Two people said Subhanallah. Again, two people is not a must here. If one said Subhanallah, he can still act according to what that one person said. Right? But say, for example, according to here, two said Subhanallah. So he sat down. When he sat down, other people, they said Subhanallah. That means now they have differences of opinions. The Ma'mumin, they have differences of opinions. Some they think that he is going to a fifth rak'ah, and some they're saying when they said the tasbih, when he sat down, they're confusing him. So some said this, some said that. So that means this is الاختلاف here. وإن اختلف عليه من ينبهه. So they made differences among themselves, those who are making him alert. سقط قولهم. All of their statements سقط. That means it becomes invalid or has no validity to it. السقوط is الوقوع, is when something falls. So that means their قول, their statement, their tasbih here is not to be acted upon because they already have two opposite tanbih here. So now he should act according to what غلبة الظن or what he think is correct. ويرجع منفرد إلى ثقتين. ويرجع منفرد إلى ثقتين. Of course, if they اختلف عليه من ينبهه, then the imam has more than one case here. If he's in doubt, then he should act upon the less. Right? So, which is, if he's in doubt whether this is the third or the fourth, that means it's the third. If he is certain, then of course this is obvious, he's not going to go to whatever people are saying to him. ويرجع منفرد إلى ثقتين. ويرجع منفرد, المنفرد, someone praying alone, يرجع, it's upon him, it's mandatory upon him to go by the statement of two ثقات. two ثقة. كيف يرجع المنفرد؟ المنفرد إذا كان يصلي وحده بعد أن انتهى من صلاته, after he finished the salah, someone told them that you made a mistake in the salah, you had sahu. So if it's two and thiqa, then he has to. If it's one and he told him that you made a mistake in the salah, then the ma'mum again, or the munfarid here, the musalli here, then the same applies to him. If he is in doubt himself, or he says, oh, subhanallah, then he has to fix the salah. But if he's certain, then he should not listen to anybody that, what if the other person is not certain himself. But if two of them, they're both thiqa, and he is not aware of the mistake that he made, that means he has to listen to them. So this goes back again to الثقتان, or the two people that are trustworthy, and all of that as long as the munfarid or the imam لم يجزم بصواب نفسه. إذا لم يجزم بصواب نفسه وجب عليه الرجوع إليهما. If he's not certain about what he's doing, then it's mandatory upon him to go by what they're making of the tanbih. إن جزم فلا يلزمه طبعا. If he now has yaqeen that he did not make a mistake, then he does not return back to them. So this is here with these different masail to be clearly understood, inshallah. Then he says وبطلت صلاة من تبعه, أي تبع إماما أبى أن يرجع حيث يلزمه الرجوع. Now the last ruling that we heard, that تبطل صلاة هذا الإمام إذا سبح به ثقتان, two ثقة made tasbih to him, and he did not have jazm, he was not certain that he is correct, so he has to listen to them, becomes wajib on him. Okay, what if he أصر, So this goes back to in asarna. If he continues to follow what he thinks is right, in this case, then salatuhu tabtul. His salah is invalid. And also tabtul salatu man tabi'ahu. And also the salah of those who pray behind him becomes batil, becomes invalid. أي تبع إماما أبى أن يرجع حيث يلزمه الرجوع. How the salah of the ma'mum here is batila is if إذا لم إذا كان المأموم لإمام أبى يعني رفض أن يرجع حيث يلزمه الرجوع. الرجوع كان واجبا عليه، فلما ترك الواجب متعمدا بطلت صلاته، وكذلك تبطل صلاة المأموم. This is what is meant here. That means the ma'mum in this case follows an imam. This imam refused to return or to go by the tanbih of the ma'mum when it's too thiqah and so on, as mentioned before, when it's mandatory for him to go by what they saying. So if he refuses, then his salah is not valid and the salah of those praying behind him is not valid. He said عالما. عالما, that means now the salah of the ma'mum تبطل إذا كان عالما, if he is someone that knows the ruling. Not عالما like a scholar, but he knows the ruling of it here. And عالما بسهو الإمام, he knows that the imam made a mistake. Not the one لا من تبعه جاهلا أو ناسيا. So the one that the ma'mum in this case, or the imam refused to take the tanbih, the alert, when two thiqah had give tasbih to him and he's not certain, his salah is batila. But if he, the ma'mum also salah is batila. But if the ma'mum, which is لا من تبعه جاهلا أو ناسيا, does not know the ruling, or he himself he is in state of forgetfulness, the ma'mum is forgetting, like his imam. So then the salah of the ma'mum does not become invalid here in this case. لا تبطل. He says للعذر, because of the عذر, because of the excuse. Because of the excuse, which is the excuse of the الجهل أو النسيان. This is the excuse that is general for the ummah. رفع أمتي الخطأ والنسيان. My ummah is not to be held accountable for mistakes or forgetfulness. So ولا من فارقه, فلا من تبعه جاهلا أو ناسيا للعذر ولا من فارقه. And also there is the salah is not invalid for the one that فارق الإمام, the one that left the imam already with his intention to pray alone. So his salah is valid. Why? لجواز المفارقة للعذر, because it's permissible to leave the imam with your intention and to continue your own salah alone if there's an excuse. Like the imam is making the salah too long and you have a plane to catch. So if it's permissible in principle, that means in this case, if the ma'mum saw the imam, the matter is not clear or whatever, or he departed from his the imam with his intention because of a valid reason, then the salah of the ma'mum in this case is valid. وَيُسَلِّمُ لِنَفْسِهِ. So the ma'mum here will make salam to his own self. That means he becomes munfarid. He's not following the imam in this case. So then he says ولا يعتد مسبوق بالركعة الزائدة إذا تابعه فيها جاهلا. ولا يعتد مسبوق. Now the مسبوق. المسبوق هو الذي أتى متأخرا. The one that المسبوق is the one that joined the salah after the first rak'ah, the second rak'ah, the third rak'ah. So he has to make up some of the rak'at of the salah. So now the masbuq, he joined the salah in the second rak'ah, and the salah is 2 rak'ah. Salatul Fajr, for example. So he joined the imam in the second rak'ah. So the imam, instead of sitting for the tashahhud, he stood up for a third rak'ah, rak'ah za'idah. And the people reminded him, did not remind him, whatever. So the ma'mum here, to him, he doesn't know what's happening. He joined in the second rak'ah. So he stood up with the imam, and this is now, to the ma'mum is the second rak'ah, but to the imam, this is nothing. So what the masbuq should do, if the imam, say for example, he sat down and he made salam, and the people, for example, they reminded him this was the third rak'ah, and the masbuq now, he thinks that he's not masbuq, he would make salam with the imam. So now in this case, he has to come up, he has to stand up, meaning the ma'mum, and to make up a rak'ah. Because this الركعة الزائدة لا اعتبار لها. It is nothing basically. So that's what ولا يعتد مسبوق. المسبوق لا يعتد. He does not count بالركعة الزائدة with the added ركعة to the صلاة. إذا تابعه فيها جاهلا. If he followed the Imam جاهلا, not knowing that the Imam is in the fifth rak'ah or in the third rak'ah of a two rak'ah salah. And so if he was not aware of it, because many times the masbook comes and making up the salah, and then there was a sahw in the salah, and the masbook is not aware of it. So so once that becomes clear to him, he should not count any ziyada, any increase in the rak'at, because this is considered to be not salah. So hopefully this key. ولا يعتد مسبوق بالركعة الزائدة إذا تابعه فيها جاهلا. Because al-masbuk, again, another thing, if the imam stood up for the fifth rak'ah, the masbuk might not be aware that this is fifth rak'ah, because it's not permissible for the ma'mum, if he knows that the imam is getting up for a fifth rak'ah, it is not permissible for the ma'mum to follow the imam in this case, because there's no fifth rak'ah in a four rak'ah salah. So in that case, the ma'mum has to sit and make tasbih as it's going to be mentioned. Right? So if he doesn't know the ruling, there's no harm on him. But if the ma'mum stand up for a fifth rak'ah, knowing that this is a fifth rak'ah, then his salah is invalid, if he knows, and if he knows the ruling also. So this is ولا يعتد مسبوق بالركعة الزائدة إذا تبعه فيها جاهلا. So he does not count again the extra rak'ah that the imam did by mistake. The masbuk should not count this rak'ah as part of his salah. Even if he prayed it with the imam, he's missing a rak'ah here in this case. He says now afterwards, وعمل في الصلاة متوال مستكثر عادة من غير جنس الصلاة كالمشي واللبس ولف العمامة يبطلهما عمده وسهوه وجهله إن لم تكن ضرورة وتقدم. What is the meaning of this here? وعمل في الصلاة. Now, العمل في الصلاة, someone did something in the salah. عمل action. Someone did something in the salah. Either عمل من جنس الصلاة أو من غير جنس الصلاة. Either the amal that the person did in the salah, either it's part of the actions of the salah. Someone made ruku' wrong, or sujood, or standing up qiyam, all of that, all these actions, as previously mentioned, these actions are part of the actions of the salah. Not necessarily that what this particular action is correct for him, but he made sahw by doing one of the actions of the salah. He added the rak'ah, he added the sajda. This is min jins salah, and the rulings apply with the sahw. But now in this part here, عمل ولكنه من غير جنس الصلاة. Action in the salah. He did something in the salah, but not part of the actions of the salah. And he gave examples. So كالمشي, someone walks, wearing something, rolling his imama on top of his head, right? Playing with his beard like too much. This is not actions that is part of the salah. So when does these actions invalidates the salah? Now here, when you read this, and after you read this paragraph, you will see that there are not just one condition, but more. He says again, وَعَمَلٌ فِي الصَّلَاةِ. So he's doing something in the salah. Now, the first condition, متوال. متوال. الموالاة, we took that in wudu and things like this. Here's متوال, that means one action after the other in a continuous manner. This is what al-muwala is. When what breaks the wudu is عدم الموالاة, when the continuity of the actions of the wudu is stopped. So if someone is doing something in the salah mutawalin, continuing to do this action. So for example, he keeps on, you know, playing with his beard over and over and over and over like this, mutawalin, not just one time. This is number one. مستكثر عادة. مستكثر. That means it's lot of actions from الكثير. عادة, the norm is, because there's no numbers. There's not three times every rak'ah, as some said. Some said that, yeah, three, because three makes it plural, right? but there's no evidence of the number three. They just wanted to make some had some limits for the people to recognize what is so many times. So this is مستكثر عادة. عادة is what the norm is when someone looks at someone in the salah. This is not normal. This is too much, right? So مستكثر, so متوال, continuous, not one time in one rak'ah and another time. So for example, if a person praying 4 rak'ah, in every rak'ah, right, he when he's standing, he say for example, grabbed his beard 2 times in the first rak'ah, and then 2 times in the second rak'ah, 2 times in the third rak'ah, and the fourth rak'ah. So if you add all of these things, it becomes like 8 times, 8 movements, but throughout the rak'ahs. That does not invalidate the salah. This is not mutawalin. But say, for example, he did these 8 movements all together, one after the other, in the same rak'ah. Then this can be mustakfarun wa mutawalin. So mutawalin, that means continuously in the same instant. Mustakfarun, that means lots of movement. عادة من غير جنس الصلاة. Now this is if it's not an action from the salah. كالمشي, like walking. واللبس, wearing something in the salah. ولف العمامة, rolling his عمامة. So and any other thing, anything else. يبطلهما حمده. Now the salah becomes باطل, becomes not valid. يبطلها. What makes it باطل? عمده, his عمد, his intention, if he's doing it intentionally. وسهوه, and also if he's doing it forgetfully. وجهله, and even if he's not aware of the ruling. إن لم تكن ضرورة, unless it's ضرورة, unless it's a necessity, and it's been mentioned before. So here, العمد والسهو, because now he's not in salah, he's just doing too much movements in the salah, and he has to repeat the salah over. So this is العمل من غير جنس الصلاة لابد من توافر شرطين, أن يكون متواليا وأن يكون كثيرا عادة. So we have two conditions here for it to invalidate the salah, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, is that it has to be متوال, continuous, and it has to be مستكثر عادة. That means normally it looks like it's too many movements. So this is, of course, the fuqaha, when they study the matter here, they study about the validity of the salah, not talking about the khushu', not talking that this is permissible. So as long as if a person to his own self, okay, I have 2 times to scratch my head every rak'ah, so he would make sure that this is like a break. It's okay. No, it's not okay. But we're talking here about what invalidates the salah, and a person should have the khushu' and the focus and the devotion in the salah. He says, ولا يشرع ليسيره. ولا يشرع ليسيره أي يسير عمل من غير جنسها سجودا ولو سهوا. لا يشرع, that means it's not part of the deen, it's not to be done. ليسيره. ليسيره, for something that is light, something as all of what's mentioned before. If it's the amal that is من غير جنس الصلاة, if it's something يسير, something very light, أي يسير عمل من غير جنسها. يسير عمل, very light action that is not from the salah. سجودا ولو سهوا. لا يشرع له سجود. السجود here is not مشروع له, is not obligatory upon him to do it. ولو سهوا, even if it's forgetfulness. And in this context, ولا يشرع, that means if he does it, the salah is valid. If he made سجود سهو in this case, does it invalidate the salah? No. But it's لا تشرع. لا يشرع سجود السهو في هذه الحال. ويكره العمل اليسير من غير جنسها فيها. ويكره العمل اليسير من غير جنسها فيها. يكره, this is now the ruling is مكروه. العمل اليسير, to act in the salah not as متوال ومستكثر فيه, that means اليسير, a slight movement, من غير جنسها, from other than the actions of the salah, فيها, in the salah. ولا تبطل بعمل قلب. The salah is not invalid by the deed done by the heart. So someone in his heart is not focused in the salah. He's doing the movements of the salah correct. He's saying what he's supposed to say, but his heart is in different world. Salah is valid. As far as the fard here, of course, and the nafil. That means he doesn't have to repeat the salah. It's not something good for him. He might finish the salah without any rewards of the salah, but it is not permissible to repeat the salah because of this. And he saved himself from missing the salah. ولا تبطل بعمل قلب. Salah does not become batil by the action done by the heart. And وإطالة نظر إلى شيء. And also, it does not become batil if a person إطالة النظر is to look at something for a longer time. So he's supposed to look at his sujood, for example, but instead he's looking at the new paint that he made for his house, and it's right in front of him, and he's just staring at it to see if there's any fault in it or not. Right? And as long as he's not missing anything else in the salah, that by itself does not invalidate the salah. Okay, so this is as far as بطلان الصلاة بعمل القلب. Then he says ولا تبطل الصلاة بيسير أكل وشرب سهوا أو جهلا لعموم عفي لأمتي عن الخطأ والنسيان. ولا تبطل الصلاة. Now, after mentioning what breaks the salah when it comes to the sahw, he says ولا تبطل. It is not باطل, the salah is not invalid. بيسير أكل وشرب. If a person eats or drink, يسير, very light eating and drinking. سهوا, forgetfulness, with forgetfulness. أو جهلا, or not knowing the ruling. لعموم عفي لأمتي عن الخطأ والنسيان. Because of the general statement of the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, is my ummah has been pardoned from mistakes and forgetfulness. Even though the hadith in Allah تجاوز عن أمتي, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive the ummah for anything that is made by mistake or forgetfulness. Here, what is meant is someone in the salah ate in the salah forgetfulness, with forgetfulness. This will be continued in the second page here. But if someone eats something right now, because this is still has some more rulings to come. So if someone ate or drank in the salah out of forgetfulness, and it doesn't mean that a person will say, how would someone forget something like this? It's not like he's going to get a dish in front of him, start eating, and he's in salah and he's forgetting that. It doesn't have to be in that way. But it can be, there's some food in the salah as in his mouth, as is going to be mentioned afterwards. So he started chewing his food in the salah forgetfully. Right? So because eating in salah invalidates the salah. Eating in the salah invalidates the salah. And what makes a person eating, that means he's chewing food. And there's so much specifics that is mentioned here that let me just finish this line inshallah. وعلم منه أن الصلاة تبطل بالكثير عرفا منهما كغيرهما. علم منه, as a result of that statement, if the eating and drinking forgetfully has to be yasir and sahwan, two conditions has to be met here. Very light, and it's instead of forgetfulness, he's not aware of what he's doing, then the salah is valid. But as a result of that, أن الصلاة تبطل بالكثير عرفا. The salah becomes batil, becomes invalid if it's kathir, if a person keeps on chewing over and over. كغيرهما, whether it's food or drink, as like anything else. And there are, as he's going to mention, the الأثر عن ابن الزبير, عبد الله بن الزبير رضي الله عنه, this is the what they say, why that it's permissible if it's nafl. But we'll do that inshallah ta'ala next time, inshallah. So that I'm intentionally stopping for two reasons, because of the time of the salah is coming close, but also so that the mas'ala here is not finished, so that you review it from the beginning, inshallah, and then we add to it what needs to be added, inshallah. Hopefully this is clear, and when, again, as we said, not every word is clear, every mas'ala is clear. Then for your own self, you can make your own way of understanding it, classifying it, putting together all these types of things for your own ways of studying. But it does not take away from the way that we study the matn, so that we put the effort to understand every single mas'ala and what branches out from it, inshallah ta'ala. طيب بارك الله فيكم. الله سبحانه وتعالى accept إن شاء الله. ننتهي إن شاء الله تعالى next time. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.